G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL Fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who will bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and tonight welcoming back to the show Jordy DeSena. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks for having me back, Heff. It's been, I've seen you quite a few times between pods, so it's been great.
Yeah, been hanging out a bit, been coming to your gigs.
Yeah, thanks for that.
No worries. Last time we hung out was we walked to the showdown from your work on Thursday night. Great night.
Yeah, I know, and that's the first game as well to go into, so very, very frustrating game. But anyway.
Yeah, very lackluster game as well, just annoying.
And we weren't up at any point for the whole game, so it was just so down.
We'll talk about it in more depth in terms of fantasy players soon, but it was probably it's the first time I've gone to a showdown, lost, and just gone, oh well. Purely because over the weekend I've had about 5 people that are notorious Ken Hinkley lovers come up to me and go, you know what? I think you're right, Heff. I think he needs to go. And I just felt so good about it. I felt so good about it all week. But apparently Bevo's going to get the sack before him, which is bullshit. But anyway.
I saw today his fine, Bevo has to make finals or something for them to ultimatum. So
I don't know, that's pretty much to me writing on the wall for a coach right there. What's the point of even keeping him now? Yeah. It's over. Just sack him now and just give an assistant a chance to prove himself. There's no point. Don't you agree?
I agree. And obviously all those fantasy players, get them back in the team.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely need those fantasy players back in there. All right, we'll get stuck into the show in a second, but thanks to Game Day Squad, we spin the wheel every Monday night and see if we can win some lucky listeners a pack. I think it's a common pack, but the best pack you can get for the classic competition. So anyway, list of names is loaded up. Let's spin it right now. And spinning. Congratulations to... the Dependleberries. So a familiar name. I'm not sure if that's come up yet already. I don't think it's come up on this competition, but I've seen it before. But,
I think I've seen a Twitter account on that, so
maybe
it might be the same one.
Yeah, well, congratulations to the Dependleberries. Get in contact with me on any of the socials or via the email address and confirm your details, and then I'll send you the pack. Quite a appropriate name because we did see Pendlebury's 10,000th disposal. That was a week before, wasn't it? But we saw Todd Goldstein's 10,000th hit out on the weekend. So that was pretty exciting.
And Pendles is in a bit of form as well at the moment.
Absolutely. We'll talk about Pendles actually, I think, tonight. I think I've got him in the show doc, so we'll wait and see when we get to that one. But anyway, if you want into that, there is a link in the description below. Likewise, there's a link to our membership content there if you wanted to support the podcast as well. It's getting to a pretty slow part of the year. Members are dropping off, people that just don't renew or whatever, which is fine. But if you do listen and you do want to support the show and keep it going in the future, please click that link and consider signing up, supporting the show and keeping it going into the future. All right, well, we've already had a bitch about the showdown. We may as well just get stuck into the games, don't you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
The showdown. So first player I want to talk about is Darcy Fogarty. So he scored 92 points. I guess my question is, could this be the resurgence? He's been disappointing all year, and I think he needed to show something in this game. I picked him up actually as a streamer option. I would have picked him up in the draft anyway, but when I was at the Shiva draft, Scott, who was there, said it just pointed out Crows have a lot of Thursday and Friday night games, and we play Saturday lockout. So I was like, pick up Fog just as a streamer because he'll kick a bag every now and then Friday night and put up good scores. And this is the first time he's done it, and I forgot to set my emergencies because we were at the pub before the game. So, anyways, what are your thoughts? Could this be the resurgence?
I think maybe, yeah. I mean, I just want to see just a little bit more from him. I was looking at his scores today, and a couple of weeks ago, he put up a 19. And even against North last week, he put up a 60. So, I think good streamer option if he does have that early game. But I just want to see a little bit more. So, hopefully, this is that resurgence because obviously. Is he 5th year now, maybe?
Could be even more than that. He might be 6th, yeah.
Obviously, I think he's going to be a gun in the future, and obviously Tex is there.
Does he need Tex to retire? That's the question everyone asks. Yeah. So once Tex goes, he has to be the guy.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't have confidence putting him on field, and yeah, I mean, streamers as well. Like, there could be another juicier matchup. So I probably just want to see a little bit more.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect loophole streamer kind of option at the moment. But if he does start kicking a few bags and get a bit of confidence out of that game, someone we could consider. All right, so Josh Worrell, like someone I just sometimes when I do the show doc, it's just like, it's got a good score. I could tip the cap or I could just speed the shot by not mentioning him because like he's not relevant. And Josh Worrell was kind of that guy when he first came to the side, but he's kind of done what our boy Mark Keane did like a few weeks ago where he had back-to-back good scores. So 88 points this week. I think he had a similar score last week against North Melbourne. I think that's probably the operative there, but plays a key defensive role or a taller. Is it almost like a third tall? No, he's the kind of like the second key, isn't he? But they've got a lot of taller defenders back there.
And they brought Butts in as well this week, which probably helps him.
Yeah, so he was probably playing that third tall role, but he was playing more of the key role last week. But yeah, putting up good numbers. But like I said, we'll keep coming back to Mark Keane. That guy had back-to-back 90s. Everyone was jumping on. I don't think he's put up a good score since.
Yeah, I think he's gone 40s, 50s. I mean,
Worrell does play a different kind of footy.
Yeah, and I was actually looking at his scores, and he's only actually had one score under 70 for the year.
That's pretty good.
Worrell. So he's actually stayed between that 70 and 88. Well, for 7 games. So
okay, maybe
it gives you a bit
option.
more confidence to, like, you know, if you're doing it for 7 games, I would almost, if you got injuries and stuff, you could even potentially field him D5.
Oh, maybe I should have spoken about him before this. I did not
it's
realise that.
It's funny how I was looking. He just had one bad one against Carlton with a 47, but.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty tough.
That's been 70 plus, yeah.
All right, maybe he's one to consider then. Pardon me. Think about Josh Roll if you need a D5 type thing. So Lockie Scholl came back into the side a few weeks ago. He's had back-to-back good scores playing on that wing. Again, forgot to set my Shiva lineup, so he was on the bench with no emergency on him again. I could have probably won my game this week if I'd actually set my emergencies properly, but whatever. Thoughts on Scholl? Wing's not a favourable role, but he has looked like a fantasy player in the past.
Yeah. And like he got 100 last week as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's with full game time. Obviously, like there's a bit of sub games at the start. So, you know, it gives you confidence. I think if you can stream him with those Thursday, Fridays, that would be ideal. But again, injury wise, like he's probably proven if you really do need him to put him at an M7 for the time being. Obviously, wing up and down, but 186 in the last 2, that's pretty convincing for me to give me confidence if I need to play him.
For context, I'm top 4 in my league, and I am playing Xavier Dersma as my M7. And like my team's one of the better ones, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like players like him are handy to have in that role because when you're playing a 12-team league, especially the mids bat's so deep that
100%.
you're going to be fielding guys like this. So yeah, it's not the worst option. Max Michaelini, I think, still a tip of the cap with his 84 points, just because he's a defender first and foremost. But he is the type of player that can attack the footy. So like in the future, I would think would be like out of the realms of possibility that he could be a good scorer. I just think his importance to the Crows as a defender first is too important for them right now, given they just got, well, I say a lack of options, but they made our forward line look like a piece of shit. So I don't know.
I agree. I think just tip a cap, like a second year player, but yeah, definitely one to watch over the years. I think
definitely. Moving on to some Port players now. Miles Bergman had 102 points. His lowest score. So I usually go 3 80+ scores in a row. You're too good for the podcast. He had I think it was like an 80, 79, 80, 100 or something like that. So like over the 4 weeks, his lowest score is 79. And he's listed as a defender. He's going to be mid-only next year because he plays on that wing, but I think we have to make him too good for the podcast now. He's picked up in too many leagues.
That's good, maybe because I've picked him up years ago and hoping for this. So it's great to see him doing the 80+ average, especially a defender for this year. So
I've jumped on a lot of these guys at the right time, like just as they're hitting that 80+ mark this year. I thought my team was a bit down and out, but because I think I've picked up a few of these guys, just hit like the right turning point. It seems to be going okay. Yeah, definitely. Jordan Sweet's the other one, so 88 points. He's going to be a handy own when Soldo out. That's like a given, right? Because he's had a 100+ score, and then I think he went huge in Supercoach as well, and then 70 in Supercoach and 80 this week in Fantasy or something like that, I think it was. But yeah, I don't know. I think he could be more than just the Soldo replacement. Like I think he could prove himself as a number 1 ruck. I had my doubts last week against, who was it against? I can't remember. It was at the MCG. Oh, was that against Collingwood when we played the two of them?
Yes.
Just 3 weeks ago, yeah. Had my doubts in that game because he didn't look great, but again, first game Blues or whatever.
Yeah.
Then he's come in and looked like a pretty solid number 1 ruck. What are your thoughts?
It was against Saints that one. We put that big score against Marshall.
Injured Rowan Marshall. Yeah. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I agree with you. And also like 88 points, Rob is actually like a really restricted ruck as well. So Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he could push that number one spot 100%. And it'd be unreal if Soldo could sneak forward status or something, and then they could sort of...
I think if Soldo comes back in the side, they're both ruined in fantasy though.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it even matters at that point.
Yeah.
The only way, like if like Soldo sneaks forward status, then Sweet goes out, maybe.
That'd be good, yeah.
Just don't see it happening. Like I see Sweet as a too good an option.
He's massive.
I think
so good.
I think you're most likely to see them play in tandem, which will kill them later on.
Yeah.
I think that's probably more of a likely option. But hopefully we have a new coach by then. It won't matter. Carlton versus Collingwood onto a Friday night cracker. I probably should tell my my Supercoach story for this one.
Yeah,
I don't know. Well, I've got like a complaint from like one person. Oh, and Kay always complains as well that we talk too much about like the classic format on this. But
Okay.
like it's mainly just like a player comes up who's relevant in all three formats, so you just kind of bring it up. But my Supercoach VC, I was forced into vice captaining Dacos because I had no other loop option. He was the only person that played before, so lucked out with a 150 from a captain, or vice captain in this game. That's all I wanted to mention.
And I got the message. That was that's unreal. That was so good.
That's what made this game.
I feel like it should have been more because that goal that he kicked was insane.
I was watching the scores, and for those who don't follow Supercoach scoring, I don't actually know how it works. And I think Jaden Popowski was complaining yet again today on Twitter, not knowing how they work.
It's all vibe.
And I do want to bring like the reason why I'm talking more about Supercoach, just for everyone listening, is that like I want to do more Supercoach content because there are Supercoach keeper leagues out there, and I want to know more about the game to actually like understand it for those people that play those kind of leagues. So that's why I'm talking about heaps more. But yeah, like I watched the scores and Dacos got 17 points for that last goal, and I was like, I feel like that should be more. Like, not understanding how like it all works.
Winning the game, you know,
I'd heard like every time before, like if you win the game or kick the match winner, you just get a huge boost in scoring. I was expecting like 100 plus or something like that. Like
well,
a huge
like
boost.
last year, Houston,
not 17.
when Houston kicked that goal after the siren, he scored like boosted up massively.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be Dacos.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Well, I was a bit disappointed.
And 150, it could have been good if it was a 170 VC for you.
I was a bit disappointed with just the 17 point add on at the end of the game. I think it might have actually gone up to 21 after that, but I still don't know. It still doesn't feel like enough.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, Mark Pitnet, 73 points, just a handy backup ruck option. But do you just get the feeling that he could be dropped in Tom De Koning? Or do you think Tom De Koning just is working too well on the forward line?
I don't know. I feel like he could be
Mark
dropped.
Pitnet is like a really highly rated ruck at Carlton. Like they love him as a hit outs to advantage type guy.
I just can't trust it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's good that there's these rucks available that are putting our options, and you can just sort of pick one up every that you need if you've got injuries and stuff. But I don't know. De Koning was actually killing it when Pitner was in there.
I think it's
hard to know.
It's that extra forward option. I think they feel like they're more dangerous with three. But the fact is, since they've been running with it, they've lost 2 games doing it. So I don't know. Like that one was against the Crows. I guess Collingwood are quality opposition. Have they lost 3 games? They lost to Geelong as well. They have lost 3.
Yeah.
They've lost 3 games in the time since they've been running with 2 rucks. 3 out of 4, I reckon. I don't know if that's the catalyst, but it's something.
There's been a bit of talk about it.
Yeah.
The 2 ruck setup. So
yeah.
I don't know. Like, good that he's put up the points. Just hard to know if he's going to be in the side, I think.
Well, if Pitnet does come out, they probably could play an extra midfielder in Matt Kennedy. But I just want to pat ourselves on the back for that one, because I think we mentioned that as soon as Chera comes back, like what happens? And I was like, my gut feels he goes back forward, but he got subbed straight away. So yeah, he's been Mr. Fix-It for him for a few weeks, and then as soon as they're kind of fully fit in the midfield and they've got a fully fit defence, he gets subbed out. I guess
100 points last week he got.
No,
and he's a
crazy.
forward, and now he's sub. Like, I thought I'd put that in there because bit of talk last week, even in Classic, everywhere, keepers.
Yeah. Well, I know they do have a few defenders to come back, but like Zach Williams got injured again and he's been playing a halfback role as well. So just watch to see what happens.
Maybe he's a Mr. Fix-It sort of guy and he goes back.
Yeah. Well, he did the back role a couple of weeks in a row, like when people got injured, like for half a game type thing. So I just don't think they would ever intentionally start him there. It's more like, someone's injured, we're a man down, you go play there type thing. We'll see what happens though. Scott Pendlebury, we did talk about him before when the Pendleburys came up. I just think he's a person that you can get really cheap to get you. Like, he got 99 points this weekend. We get that every week, but pretty much guaranteed 80 plus most weeks. And like, he's going to retire in the next year or so. if the person who owns him, I know the person who owns him in our league is top of the league, so I won't be able to get him.
Yeah.
But if he was on the owned by the bottom of the ladder or someone in the bottom four, whatever, he's just someone you could offer up. Like you might even be able to offer up someone like, I'm just trying to think of my team who I could actually give. Like I could offer up someone like Massimo D'Ambrosio or like
someone that's sort of youngish.
Yeah, maybe even like Jai Clark, who's touted to be, he sucks at the moment, but he's touted to be like a future gun. You might be able to just get that knowing that they're going to retire in the next few years and like, they'll get something back at least type thing. And yeah, you might miss out on those kids, but like if you're contending, you don't really care because you're trying to get the flag now. So yeah, just an idea. I could not think of any other better options. I always just revert back to my team. So my league mates are going to be thinking there's going to be a trade coming for him or something, but it's not what I meant.
He's so good.
Jack Crisp, just interesting to note, he had 93 points, so he had a big CBA bump, but Degoe and Mitchell were out. Mitchell's going to miss again because he had appendicitis, I saw
that on his Ball Magnets Instagram. So, I mean, I don't know how long that's going to be.
They reckon definitely this week, maybe next week as well. So,
and I think Degoe is going to be another week as well with the groin.
So watch that Crisp.
So Crisp and Pendlebury,
are
and Dacos. That's probably the main three.
Yeah, because Dacos saw a big bump as well. All right, John Noble, the next one, 81 points. I reckon if he's still floating on the waiver, I did the waiver wire pod today, ran the numbers, and I don't think he was under the 40% threshold anymore, so he's been picked up in enough leagues. But yeah, he will score like that every 2 weeks.
I feel like he's proven his point now in the side.
Oh, 100%. He's not going out again. Any other players from that game you liked?
Yeah, so I just sort of mentioned Lockie Sullivan. So he obviously was the sub, but he came on and got 57 points, 43% game time, so good points per minute. And obviously the whole preseason was about Finn McRae being that sort of that next man in. And looks like with Degoe and Titch out, Sullivan might be the next man in ahead of McRae. So, I mean, I think he's probably going to be there again this week. And yeah, if he can get a full game, maybe he could push out at 80. I'm not sure, but...
he did
just
get
one to watch.
32% of the CBAs in 43% game time. So that's a really good sign if he's going to be playing that midfield. Because, if they're needing an extra person to go in there, he could be the guy.
Play West Coast this week as well. So if you're like really struggling for midfielders, like it would be great if you could stream, but obviously it's on a Sunday I think they're playing. But if you really like there's nothing there, it could be a sneaky one to pick up.
Yeah,
just for at least for a week.
Might be even one if for your classic formats as a rookie if you're targeting.
Yeah,
because there's not a lot out there at the moment, and just could be someone to go down to who could surprise you and outperform their high break even really. Sydney Swans versus GWS Giants. GWS were really disappointed in this game. They did lose a few to injury and Tom Green and things like that. But yeah, I expected a bit more of a fight. But I guess it was in the SCG that Sydney do play very well as well. But in terms of the Sydney players that perform well, Will Hayward had 109 points. I feel like Will Hayward has never been talked about ever in any type of circle, and now apparently he's going to make like a 600, 700k contract in South Australia. Have you been hearing this as well?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Is he coming to Port or Crows?
I don't know.
It's both interests.
Yeah. The thing is, like, it's a pretty good point. Like, most of the good teams in the competition and teams that win flags have very good small forwards.
Yeah.
Because, like, the game's so congested, it's very hard for key forwards to take marks these days. You need either good crummers or guys that can get back quickly on turnover, like slingshot type play as well. So I kind of do see the point, but it seems like a lot of money for someone like Will Hayward, who just seems pretty run-of-the-mill in that role. But anyway.
I agree. It's hard. Yeah, it's so hard to predict, especially fantasy-wise, right?
Yeah. Well, fantasy-wise, it doesn't really matter. But like, look at Bobby Hill. I don't think he's kicked a goal for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But still won them a grand final off his own boot type thing. So they do kind of have their value. But anyway, tip of the cap to Will Hayward for his 109 points. Kicked 4 goals to get there. So won't be doing that every week. I said that about Jake Waterman though as well. Dane Rampy, another tip of the cap, 97 points. Just had a heap of kicks in a wet weather game, which is just a bit of an anomaly. And just no one else was really doing anything in that back line. So I think he just kind of was just the spare player out there and just got heaps of kicks from there. The GWS players are more interesting. Now, we've had a few questions about James Peatling because he did have 60% of the centre bounce attendances on the weekend, which was the most for the season. Scored 115 points on the back of that. Do you think that's just a Tom Green beneficiary, Canelio being out? You think it's just a flow-on effect from that?
I think so. And I definitely watching team sheets. Like, I'm pretty sure Cogs is going to be back.
Yeah.
Tom Green is a test, so he might be a one week.
It sounds like he will be back.
If he's definitely not named, I would be looking at Peatling off the waivers because I think, there's a role there for the week. But I was watching the game and I feel like maybe he had a little bit of a cooler role, like on a
because he did have a heap of tackles as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting what they do, even if Tom Green and Kinnear play, like if they like him being sort of a tagger or a cooler. I think the week before he had like 30% CBAs.
Yeah.
But obviously, Cogs was still
He's
out.
definitely had his
definitely
biggest uptick in the last 2 weeks.
Definitely one to watch, but it's hard to say right now. But he's on everyone's waivers and he's a forward, so.
That's the thing. Like, if he wasn't a forward, you probably wouldn't be considering. But given that forward status, it's like you just get players that are worth the punt, and he's probably worth the punt.
Yep, 100%.
Finn Callahan is probably too good for the podcast now as well. He's scored 100 points. His bump, though, has been since Cornelia has been out as well. So there's just so many factors going on in that GWS midfield. But scoring makes him too good for the podcast at the moment.
Just a gun coming through.
Yeah.
It's great to see.
Yeah, breaking out. The other one is Brent Daniels, 90 points. He's probably too good for the pod, just given that he's got an 80-plus average after, 8 rounds, now 7 games or something for him. And he's picked up in all the leagues. So, forward options, coaches out there.
Great option this year.
Who picked him up,
with the forward options that we got. So.
Yeah, definitely. And then Callan Ward, I'll say it again, they call him Cement Head, 80 points. Again, just like, he's like the Pendlebury, but a lesser version. Just like you could get him for so cheap if a shit team owns him, you know what I mean?
Just solid.
Yeah, and he plays that 80 plus, or scores you 80 from the M7 role each week. The St Kilda versus North Melbourne game, did you think North Melbourne would show a bit more in this game? They showed nothing.
I know. Maybe for the first 10 minutes and then Saints just took it away. But pretty worrying. I keep listening to Xavier Ellis, and he's got a bet on that no team will win this year. He really wants North to not win a game so he can have his bet. So who knows?
Is it just any team? There's one team that just doesn't win a game. Yeah. So North is that team.
Yeah. I think he originally had it for West Coast and now he's riding North. But it's hard to see them winning a game at the moment. So I don't know.
Yeah, this would be the way St Kilda have been playing, although they almost beat Port the week before. But anyway, that's another story. You thought North might be able to give this one a shake, but no, even Saints got on top of them. I think they were down. They were up for a little bit at the start, and then
they started okay, and then Saints just took it away.
So a few shining lights for Saints. Probably a couple of them are tip of the cap. So like Josh Battle, Dougal Howard. There was just obviously not a lot of targets up forward for North Melbourne. I think Larkey only got his hands on the footy late and put up a respectable score, but I think he did everything in the last quarter. Just heaps of marks, I think, in that back line. So tip of the caps to Battle and Dougal Howard, 92 points and 88 points respectively. The shining light, though, is Darcy Wilson. He's actually become a fieldable, good option, given that he's got that forward status as well. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, gun. We were talking about him, as the top 5 sort of fantasy coming out of this year, and he's proven that. And that wing and pushing forward, 3 goals, and even in looking at Classic and Supercoach, he put up big numbers as in Supercoach as well, and it's just a great sign to see. He was a rising star as well a couple of weeks ago. Great signs.
A testament to how good he's playing. He's now a startable option in your classic format. So he should be on your field in your draft and your keep leagues 100%. As well. So if he's not on there, get him on there because forward status, kicked 3 goals on the weekend, but he scored 80 plus I think the week before with maybe kicking 1, but he still does enough.
I reckon if you look at his scores last 3 or 4 weeks, he's been 70, 80 plus.
Definitely.
And played Port last week. It was supposed to be a tough matchup. And
for fantasy,
got 88 he got 92. So
92 was it?
Unreal.
Yeah. And the other one that was interesting is Jack Hayes. So welcome back to him. He had 87 points. He doesn't look like he should be a good scorer, but he'll always take a few marks up forward, kick a couple goals. Do you remember his debut?
Oh, wasn't it 120 or something?
Yeah, it was mad. It's huge. And he goes into the ruck as well and gets a bit of time. I don't know. He's good enough to be listed on a team. And I think he's a ruck forward as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was, maybe it's just straightforward. So
I think you're right. Actually, he is straightforward because you can't pick him up as a ruckman. Hopefully, he gets enough status to get that. Well, it doesn't really matter. You want him as a forward anyway. So, and he looks like he's going to do that part role, especially because it just improved their midfield, having him in there as well, and then improved their forward line as well. So cause. I know like he was only coming back from injury, but Max King like literally did nothing for the game as well.
I was playing it someone, and obviously like he put Max King straight on field because
I put him on too. Playing North, I thought he'd at least be good for
like
3.
26 or something.
Yeah, 20. I think it was 26, 21 points or something. Cost me the game again. One single matchup.
Damn.
But anyway, I've lost 3 in a row. No good. Moving on to North Melbourne. I guess we'll just talk about their backline here because like Sheasel moved into the midfield, so that's been a big talking point. And there is a question about him later, so we won't move on to talk about that too much until we get to the questions. But really, it's just bumped up Fisher and McKercher, hasn't it?
Oh, 100%.
We've already made McKercher too good for the podcast, but Zach Fisher had 103 points. And I guess, with Sheasel playing in the midfield, him and McKercher just pick up the slack across that half back line. I think they're going to be like, I know everyone traded Zach Fisher last week because, or in the classic formats because he had, wasn't named the sub, but I think he's going to be pretty good from now on.
I agree. And he actually had 6 kickouts as well. So he led the kickouts.
With Sheasel gone, someone's got to take him.
Yeah. So, I mean, especially as a forward, like I'm even thinking, I've seen trades today in classic, people are looking at trading him back in.
Yeah.
Like he's so cheap and especially as a forward in a draft, like it's good to see. So
if you were worried about him, after last week in your keeper leagues, don't be, because I think he stays in the side for a while now. And George Wardlaw had 91 points. He should be 2G for P given his potential. Like he's not available on waiver wires. Like he's too highly owned, but looks so composed and experienced with the footy. Like that goal he kicked near the start just looked like a player had been playing for like 10 years. Like absolute nuts. So again, not 2G4P just yet, but should be in the near future. And I mentioned Nick Larkey before that with the 82 points. I dropped him in Shiva in the draft league, and this was his first good score. But 2 goals late in the game and it was dead, so that's really just the tip of the cap as well. On to the Melbourne versus Geelong game. I didn't actually watch this game, so you're going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting here because I'll let you watch this one and I watched the West Coast Essendon blockbuster. But Stephen May, I wanted to make him too good for the podcast last week, but Jake said no.
Really? Why?
Yeah, just because he said wouldn't trust him to put up those kind of scores each week, I think. But another 100 plus,
proven it.
Another 100 plus score. What do you think the catalyst for him is?
Oh, I think he's the keeper. He took 8 kickouts. Like that's 24 points. That's 24 free points.
The thing is though, he's always I think last year he averaged 7 kickouts as well.
Yeah.
But you know what it is? Like I think Melbourne have been like when you watch him, like they do a lot of the switch around like the half back line as well. So if he's not taking kick-ins, he's generally getting a marker in that kind of kick from one side to the other. They're not like rushing the ball forwards as well either. Like this game was pretty low scoring. A lot of their games have been like low scoring because they're simply not attacking, but they're also not letting their opponents score as well. So they do a lot of that. Plus he just gets intercepts like Jake Lever as well, like 96 points. They both take heaps of intercept marks as well. So I think he's just picked up a few more intercepts and a few more of those switch around kicks, and that's just bumping him up to like that.
There's been a
score.
few injuries like Salem and Bowyer being out. So, maybe they're just using Lever and May as the main guys
and
now.
May's got a good leg on him. Yeah. Like you leave it to those kind of quicker distributors.
He's one of those ones where he's a key position, but he's good at the switch, good at the kick outs, can do it all. So yeah.
Too good for the podcast for 2024.
He was on the waivers a few weeks ago, and our keeper.
No way.
And I think we talked about him last time I was on here, and one of my mates picked him up straight away, and now he's benefited. So
I reckon he's probably the type. He's probably the type that we have to bring back like in the preseason because like he probably will go back next year or something will happen, or like you won't get Salem out, you won't get Bowie out for the year, you won't get all those players missing type thing. But this year, everything's just working for him. Caleb Windsor, you sent me a text on Saturday night just saying, I want to talk about Windsor. Yeah. So the floor's yours.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just so impressed with him. Like, obviously, like I took him pretty high in all my keeper leagues. I was pretty hot on him, but it's just great to see him put up 99 points. He's got the rising star this week, which is unreal. But yeah, obviously he's on that wing role, and he's obviously a rookie, so it can be a bit up and down. But to show that, 8th game, 99 points, and just loved his work rate. Like he's just running and getting +6s. So he's getting those +6s on the wing. And then there were a couple of rundown tackles in the forward 50 where he got holding the ball when he kicked a goal and he just missed another one. He could have had 3 goals.
Yeah, right.
And that's, in Supercoach, he got like a 130. Yeah. So it's just really good signs. I just feel like I see him in a couple of years like playing. Obviously their midfield is stacked, but I feel like he could go inside one day, or like play 30% inside and like wing and inside role.
Yeah.
And he just, I don't know, sort of like, he just reminds me a bit of like a Beatty Smith or something with that wing sort of inside, which is a big call. But
he's touted with that same kind of pedigree, I guess.
Yeah, and he's got the speed.
Yeah.
Just really impressed with him. I think keeper league owners will be impressed. Obviously a forward as well this year, but we'll lose that status. But I'm pretty high on him in keepers.
The other Melbourne player that I'm like, well, there's a couple more to talk about, but Ed Langdon as well is too good for the podcast again as well, just given his scoring. And I think it's kind of what I was saying before about Melbourne just not rushing things. And like it allows the wings to kind of push up, get a few kicks. I didn't see this game, and I'm not sure what his mark numbers actually were. I probably should check that. But I've just got a feeling that those rucks are just, those wings are just being brought into the game a little bit more, just due to like not rushing the ball forward. So what do you have, Ed Langdon? 7 marks. Like that's pretty decent for a winger as well. So that kind of helps him, I think, there as well. And the other one's Tom Sparrow, just a good score, 82 points, playing that mid-forward role. Like there'll be games where he's stuck forward a lot more than he should be, but there'll be games where things come off as well. What he kicked? He didn't kick a goal as well, so that's probably decent to see that he did that without actually scoring goals and just kind of getting a few extra possessions as well. The only other one I want to talk about from the Cats' perspective was Tom Atkins. 101 points. Was he back in the midfield this week?
He was. He had like 60% CBAs, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And Danger was obviously out, but Broon went down injured.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he went off with a shoulder. So, obviously they put, he was pretty much the main guy in there. But it was a real contested game. Was playing Melbourne. He had 11 tackles.
Yeah.
So
I think the other one as well, Parfitt dropped out or something.
Yeah, Parfitt wasn't playing either.
Yeah, that's right.
So the midfield was pretty much like Atkins, Bowes and Guthrie, I think.
Yeah. Zach Guthrie.
Cam Guthrie.
Sorry.
Cam Guthrie in the middle.
Actually, Zach Guthrie was the other one. Now, is he too good for the podcast again? Because like we said his scoring, I said his scoring bump had just coincided with Stewart out, but Stewart came back in and he's got 113.
I haven't been tracking, but if he's 113 is a lot.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty good.
He's had 3 80-plus scores in a row, so technically too good for the podcast. Is he now the distributor guy?
Or maybe
is Stewart playing more
probably been they've sort of been
Bowes going more into the midfield.
Yeah.
Stewart playing more defensive probably as well, so that probably helps him. It's just like a few things that just adds to his scoring, so he's probably too good for the podcast as well. We'll read out a few gold members here just to say thank you for signing up and supporting the show. So thank you to Angelo Agisalau. I hope Agisalau. I'm so bad at pronouncing some names. I'm sorry. You got a better attempt at that one?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Agisalu. Or Agasalu. I don't know.
No, I think Agisalu. Hopefully that's correct.
Michael Welton, Alex Fugelslang, James Bellett, or Belay, I'm not really sure. David Grant, Daniel Pearce, Luke Brasendale, Christopher Jackson, Joe Sullivan, Jacob Sproul, Michael O'Loughlin of Sydney fame, Troy Woodruff, Jamie Mott, Wayne Keith, and Michael Berard. That was one of the more difficult listed names. Hopefully the next one isn't too bad. The West Coast versus Essendon game. Tip of the cap, straight up. Tom Barrass, 83 points. Jack Williams, 76 points, kicked 3 goals to get there. I'm not interested in any of those, but good scores on the weekend. Although Barrass can be all right if he takes a few marks in defence, but doesn't happen often enough for me. The only thing I wanted to mention from one of the things from the West Coast side of things, Harley Reid, last minute of the game, clutched at his hamstring, running for a ball, going out of bounds, and then ran straight to the bench, like hobbling.
I saw that.
But then came back on, like for the last 30 seconds or whatever. So, there's a talk of his hamstring. If he's out, we saw Jack Petrocelli go nuts last week as that, just jumping into the same role. Yeah, jumping into the exact same role. So if just monitor, or maybe just preemptively, if you've got a spare spot, pick up Petrocelli now, because he could, do another 100-plus score next week if Reed's out. So,
and you think they'll manage Reed maybe
they're not
in the year as well.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
well. Like if they rest him even later on, you got Petrocelli there. So it's a good call.
Definitely. The other one was Bailey Williams, like 81 points. Like I don't think we need to say too much. Just number one ruck in any side should go at the 80 mark. So especially if you're a bigger.
There's so many of these rucks, the 80s you can just pick up. Yeah. It's pretty handy this year.
Absolutely. I wish I had them last year because I had a ruck donut in the final.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Big O, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Big O, and didn't have a replacement. Scott Larsett was my only other guy. Xavier Terzar, 94 points. He's just such a tease.
Teasing you again.
Yeah, I did have him on field. I've got to play him at the moment because I've got Mitchell and Parker sitting on the pine. Got to play him at the moment. And yeah, he just gets it done for me. I think he had 72 last week, so it wasn't awful either. Like, it's enough. I'll take a 70 from an M7. So
I wonder if, like, because the wing roll, like, I don't know, I've always got a thing about a bigger ground, like an MCG or Optus, playing a wing players.
We'll
like,
talk about Jeremy Sharp in the next game in a sec. But yeah, like, he did a similar type thing.
Yeah.
Like, looked putrid the week before, although that was at Optus the week before. But anyway.
Well, Optus, I think, is a bit... Oh, right.
Yeah, he was shit at Optus, but he was good at the G. But I don't know. I think the G...
Maybe just one of those...
I think the G is wider, though. I think that's the thing. But
I've got the same thing. Optus or MCG usually is pretty all right for wingers.
Yeah. And then Todd Goldstein got his 10,000 hit-outs and scored an 82, I think it was. Does he hold as a number one or does Draper come back in?
Well, Draper's in a bit of heat at the moment, so he probably needs to prove himself to come back, I would have thought.
What was the comment? It was something about another team.
It was about Bevo.
Or was it LDU should leave? Or was it Bevo and then
Bevo,
second?
and it was McRae, Bailey Dale... Caleb Daniel
should go elsewhere.
Should be, and Bailey Smith. They should be. If Bevo's still there, they'll request trades at the end of the year.
Why do you get suspended for that? Like, surely you shouldn't. You should. I know you shouldn't say it, but like suspending a player for or just dropping him for a week.
They said injured, but obviously Brad Scott. There's a bit of. Yeah, I saw something quite heated on. He wasn't happy about it.
Surely, like, you pull him aside, say, "Hey, just don't do that anymore. That's not a good look."
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that's probably the best way to manage it, and then he just doesn't ever do it again. So cops the heat for a week, everyone forgets about it, and then he doesn't do it again. But anyway, Brad Scott will do what Brad Scott needs to do. Let's move on to the Richmond versus Fremantle. Oh, sorry. On that, Draper got dropped to our waiver wire and then picked up straight away. Because he got that forward status, like everyone's kind of hoping
and if Goldie goes down or he plays number one later in the year, like it's pretty handy.
Yeah.
But you think Goldie's going to be the man at the moment?
Yeah. Freo versus Richmond at the G. So Matthew Johnson had 97 points. I think this was I think he had like 5 extra CBAs with Fife being out, kind of ate into a couple of those there. And I think just being an easier opposition as well. It did give me hope that once Fife retires, he could be a handy option. Like we saw it last year when he got inside time.
Yeah, and they're like the same height and build. Like they're just that big body, like tall midfielder. So it is good signs.
Yeah.
97.
He's kind of playing like Mundy's role, like before he retired. You know what I mean? And like that he's just playing out on the wing.
On the wing.
Like, but an inside midfielder playing out on a wing. You know what I mean? And then just needs someone like Fife or just needs an opportunity in that midfield. But behind Sarong, Brayshaw, Young, it's pretty tricky. Like it's going to take some time. And even when he does get a role, he's no guaranteed. But like he's the type of player that if he was at another club or higher up in that pecking order, you'd probably expect some bigger scores from him.
100%.
Yeah. And then Jeremy Sharp, we talked about 86 points. There's a few wingers that score better at the MCG. Last week I talked about Jake Lloyd averaging 101 at the MCG. I think Jeremy Sharp was probably averaging 80 plus there as well. I didn't run the numbers this week, but I do remember another good score a few weeks ago when he was playing at the G2. So yeah, maybe just think about some wingers at the G a little bit more because they seem to be scoring better there. And Josh Tracy is technically too good for the podcast. 84 points. I think he's had 380 pluses in a row, 4 goals. He needs to score goals to score well, to kick goals to score well, but he just keeps doing that. So
he's just been so solid, since
his contested marking's awesome.
Yeah,
like he just takes grabs and and up the ground too, like pushes up.
Looking at his score, it's just so you can give you confidence to just put that straight on field.
What's your take on the Nat Fife sub, the Darcy sub? Is that's just load management, right?
Yeah, I was pretty it's a bit annoying because I had him in my super coach, and it was good that you texted me because I was at a gig and you said 5 star. I was lucky I was able to switch it out.
Yeah. Who'd you put on? I
put Garcia on.
What did he get?
He got 68.
That's pretty good. I put Harvey Gallagher on for like a 40, I think it was.
Yeah. So and Fife got 17 or something. So like it was an extra 40 points, 50 points, which was thanks for that.
No worries.
Was good.
No worries.
But yeah, I think load management. It just would have been nice if they just sort of maybe said it during the week or something, or just sort of come out. There was just no obviously he had that massive game last week, and sometimes they sort of go like, you're hearing West Coast saying about maybe getting a rest soon, and now he's injured, you know, so like they could have maybe
he didn't look
that, but
he didn't look pissed off about it. Like he was pretty just sitting there like, I'm a sub, like this is what it is. Like I think it was probably even before last game. It's like next week you're having a rest type thing. Like And then that's maybe even why, like, you know, the train of thought is like, why would you make him sub after he's had such a good game? Like, he's back. Let's keep the momentum going. But he probably went harder last week knowing that he was going to be rested this week as well.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor.
And they
well.
got Sydney this week at home. So it made sense. Like, on matchup, it sort of makes sense. And
an easy kill this week. And then
but I think, you know, I think you can... Yeah, I wouldn't be too... Like, as long as he's playing, he seems to be putting up some good scores. You just got to be on that. Like, we play rolling lockout in our league, so it was like our coach was able to just flick him off, you know. So, but obviously not everyone plays rolling, so just one to try and keep on top of it if you think he's going to get a rest.
Yeah, and going on to the Darcy sub as well. I think Sam Naismith was subbed out, so they just rolled Darcy off to kind of preserve him as well. So, like, don't make too much of that, Darcy, and then Jackson, don't get excited as well.
I've got Darcy and Meek, and I played Darcy.
Oh,
and we'll talk about the rucks next, but pretty much, you know, the 60 and got doubled by my bench ruck.
Oh, that's a perfect segue to move into Western Bulldogs versus Hawthorn. First player I wanted to talk about there was Lloyd Meek. Is he too good for the podcast? 114 points.
I think he is. Like, he's killing it. You like mentioned it a few weeks ago. He's got that. He's that good game for a ruck. He's got the game.
The only issue with him ever was that they were playing Reeves ahead of him, and he's never playing him solo.
You can't have two rucks.
Yeah. But once like he got going, he's clearly the better fantasy ruckman, and probably the better ruck. Like, even though his tap work's maybe not as good, but that's only because Ned Reeves is 1,000,000 feet tall. Like, might not be as good in the hit outs and stuff like that, but geez, he's way better around the ground and does enough in the contest to affect it. So yeah, like, he's too good for the podcast at the moment. So well done to Lloyd Meek there. The only other thing was more of like a structural thing is Blake Hardwick, 82 points. He actually switched back to defense, like, and he scored better there, obviously. But it was like, I think the last time I saw him, well, I don't know, when they come up against good opposition, they play him as up forward, but I thought they'd keep him there up forward just because they have a chance of winning as well, because he's quite good when he takes a mark, and I think he sprayed a set shot on the weekend, but usually you back him in to kick him as well.
Yeah.
So to see him go back was probably good for owners, given now that he's got that forward status. The issue is, like, he has gone back before and he just ends up forward. He's going to keep swinging, but he's capable of, like, putting up 80 still while doing that. So I think that's the positive there.
100%. I'm looking at him as well this week on our waiver because that forward status, and it's very dry with our forward. So, and they brought in that Casher Deer as a forward. He actually looked all right. So, and I think they'll get Mitch Lewis back. So it just depends what they want to do with their forward line. Yeah.
I think Deer gets another week or two, given on the way he played. But yeah. And the only other one from this game was James Harms. He was pretty putrid last week, but 101 points. He's playing half back role, which is probably his best place for fantasy scoring, given he's got the forward status as well. So, like, he's the type of player that will probably get dropped in Bevo in a few weeks. But
it's hard to know. I think, and like, it's come out today that Libba, he's got some concussion symptoms, so he's out indefinitely now. Yeah. So
I've already received a Libba trade request.
Have
actually,
you? Yeah. Do you own Libba?
No. Someone tried to trade. Yeah, someone tried to give him to me for Mason Wood.
Right.
Decline. No, they're trying to pull the wool over us.
Yeah. But, you know, I think Ed Richards, like, he was playing like half forward this week. So I think with Libba out, I think maybe he goes back in. So it'll be interesting to see if Harms just stays half back if Richards goes in and takes Libba's role. Yeah. But then there's also Sanders in the twos if Bevo wants to play him. So there's so many moving parts. I would love to see I'm a Harms owner, so I'd love to keep for half back as a forward. But
just you can't count on it, can you?
You just can't count on it, yeah.
But it might happen. On the Brisbane Lions versus Gold Coast Suns, a final match round. Truly a game that looked like two teams just did not give a shit. Like, no, the rest of the country didn't care about it, so why should they? I guess because
it was weird being on a Sunday night late as well. Yeah. Like I was ready to do my trades in my super coach. And it was like
I didn't even wait up for lockout to end. I just went to bed. Like, I did the podcast notes and got out of the office.
And like Neil and Zorko are on 100 at halftime. Like, that's ridiculous.
Like, just man up. Like, do something.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
I think Jaden put a stat to have two players do it at halftime.
They're just running rings around them, really. First one with the Gold Coast Suns I'll talk about is Will Powell. So he's kind of picked up his scoring the last few weeks. And I guess there's a few factors here because, like, Lukosius went forward again and Flanders went into the midfield. So the only thing is, like, it's bad timing because he was one of the players that when they went up to Darwin last year at that same time just fell off an absolute cliff because, like, it was so slippery, greasy. like distributors like him just couldn't get their hands on the ball. The only players that were like good in these conditions were tacklers.
Matt Rao.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So that's actually why I'm kind of considering trading Closey over Graham. Like, because I think Graham's a good tackler and things like that. So he's just, any streamers, or if you've got Graham on your bench in your draft and keeper leagues, he might be someone to consider over the next few weeks as a stream, just given the conditions are probably going to suit him as well.
I'm looking at the same. And I think Gold Coast, they're trying things. They're obviously getting pumped, so Harvick's just sort of gone, okay, Flanders mid, Lukosius forwards, which is good for power, but then it affects so many other, there would have been like Lukosius owners unhappy that he's gone back forward, you know, so you don't really know what's happening. And then Darwin for the next 2 weeks is interesting. Yeah.
No, it's going to if you've got Gold Coast players that aren't inside mids and tacklers, that's like Flanders as well. Like, does Flanders go as well up there if he's playing off the half back line? In the midfield, he probably goes a little bit better. But it's going to be interesting to see where he plays, but he's too good for the podcast anyway. Speaking of too good for the podcast, Jarrod Berry, 131 points. So
where has this come from?
Well, yeah, I was talking about it. I've been talking the last 3 weeks. Like, it looked like the last few weeks, it looked like his role had not changed at all. I think it may be just like a few less distributors off that half back line, like people going down. And he was kind of pushing pretty deep back there, so might have just being used more as like a defensive wingman kind of thing. But this week he was playing in the mids. Like, I think he had centre bounce.
He had a few CBAs.
So, I don't know if we made it official last week, but he's too good for the podcast. So well done to those who picked him up. I'm playing the owner of him this week, so hopefully he has a stinker. Darcy Wilmot and Connor McKenna both had 97 points each. Like, Answorth went down with concussion, I think it was. 2 people did their ACL in this game. It was
and Starkovic was
out as well.
Such a laid out. And then the guy they brought in, they played him forward. So it was basically Wilmot and McKenna's ball back there. Yeah. And it was that type of game where, like, it was just driven from halfback line as well. Like, just continual rebounding from there. So, like, good scores. Let's hopefully see it happen again. I'm not sure if it will. Harry Sharp's an interesting one because, like, scored 87 points and he's always had, like, his first game, he always scores pretty well. Like, I think a lot of people brought him in a few years ago as a cash cow and he was dropped like 2 weeks later or something like that because he scores well early. But I don't know if he's a tease or, like, because he is a winger after all, but he's like a pretty hard runner. Like, those good runner wingers, like, are generally okay scorers because they just work all day and get to contest to contest to contest. Like someone like Ed Langdon, for example. So I don't know, like, he's one that intrigues me. Like, I reckon he'd be like a stash option if he was on waiver wise. Like, just pick up, maybe it could be used as one of those M7 types we've been talking about all pod. I would like to see a bit more, but it'd be good to see him come along.
And the other one is Kyle Lohman. I think he's up for a bit of a boost now. McCarthy's out, Bailey's out. He scored 82 points in the weekend. He was really lively. I think he got a goal, but he just did like the contested things as well. Took 6 marks to 6 tackles. Like, the role's not great for fantasy, but there's no reason why I don't think he could match like a Zach Bailey type scoring. Yeah. But it's just that he's probably not going to get the midfield time that Bailey does, that's all.
Maybe, well, it seems that he cemented his spot for a few weeks, which is a good sign. So.
And I think he went 100 in Supercoach as well.
Yeah. So I was looking at him a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I've got him on the bench as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, bit of cash gen there. But, like, if you're in the Supercoach draft format as well, he might be able to just think about there as well.
Sure.
All right, that's the end of the players and all the games. Let's do the gold members read for this week. Thank you to Liam Ryan of the West Coast Eagles. Thank you. A few same names here. Jordan Burgess, Luke G, Dion Shaw, Scott Pittaway, Dane Bedgovich, Jake the Snake Jackson, good name, Mark Kempster, the Bruce Moose, Jordan Darling, Owen Geddes, Bradley Dunmore, Oliver Simpson, Nick Munro, and James Davies. Such an easier list of names to read out that time.
That was good.
Thank you. Well. Thank you to all of you for signing up, and thank you to all of you for having easy to pronounce surnames. Let's move on to the questions, and we could even wrap this up under an hour. That never happens, George. So, really efficient tonight.
I think the first couple have been an hour, so there you go.
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
getting quicker.
I'm speedier. Yeah. I think we've got enough that are 2G, 4P these days. It kind of cuts the list down a little bit as we get through them. But get some questions. So, Hugh Man wants to know, this is a good one. Sub rule, Hurt, Fife, and Darcy. What time on ground percentage do more leagues use, and should it be more like 25% to avoid the sub? First of all, what does your league do?
Well, I think we actually had, last year we had 20%, then the sub rule came in and we voted to put it at 40% this year because of the sub rule, because we thought that, obviously it's a bit harder to predict. So we did 40%. Now, Darcy, as I was saying before, I had Darcy, and I think he came in at 45, so I just had to cop that. But he got a 60, so it's not bad. So that's what we play is 40%. What's the ideal percentage? Like, do you have in your league? Do you have?
No, we've got 20%, and like it seems to be so pointless. Like all it ever does is will prevent. Like if someone gets named the sub, you like, especially when it's the opposition, you're like, you beauty, they've got the sub. Like that means like a free hit to you. But they always just come in the last quarter and get under 20%, and then their bench comes on. Yeah. And then, or like if people have used their loophole, it stuffs it up as well. So first of all, it'd be great if we had a rolling lockout. Definitely have rolling lockout. If your league's not is crazy and doesn't have rolling lockout like mine, have one, because like if you care about your fantasy, let's just start adjusting. Let's try to get the best scores we possibly can, type thing. And then I guess the second thing as well is like, I reckon you should have a higher threshold, because like then if someone's the sub, like they still cop the hit for it. Like you should be picking players that are likely to make the team. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
I see it as no different as like backing a donut type thing. Or you got to be like, use your nous to pick a player that's not going to be the sub. I do feel there are exceptional circumstances, like no one would have picked Fife being the sub and stuff like that. But I think it should be higher to cover those ones. Yeah, so that it's just not the people being rewarded for having the sub that only comes on in the last quarter. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
I think 40. I mean, I don't know, 40%. I think another league is about that as well. So I don't know. That's just what we've been playing. I'm used to that.
In a perfect world, like it would only take Genius Sports to like add maybe a few lines of code that if sub trigger emergency. You know what I mean? Like just make them emergency if they're a sub. Like you get your thing, but instead of having to do thresholds and stuff like that, and then maybe even not have emergencies. Just have like the highest player on your bench comes on for whoever's out. You know what I mean? And then if you have two people, like you have a sub and a zero, you get both your emergencies.
The traders were talking about it on their pod. They're like, maybe we should have an extra position on the tee. Like, and if one score drops off per week, like these are the things that were happening.
No, you don't.
Today's pod.
It's crazy.
It's just hard. Hopefully they cut the sub rule next year.
100%.
And
like everyone hates it. The coaches hate it. Like no one likes the sub rule. Or just name them from the fucking emergencies like last year. Like why put 5 on the bench?
Because then straight up.
Yeah, like why did we do that? Or why don't we just name? I guess there needs to be some flexibility in your team sheets, but like name your sub on Thursday night with the teams. Like there's so many solutions for this. Anyway, that's the rant over. Richard Eliadis, eye test long term, not just from one game. What do you think of Sheasel as the mid forward? Are stocks up or stocks down? Or is that a rat emoji? I can't really see.
It does. Oh, it's like like cheese, maybe. Sheasel. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't that impressed. Like watching it, I was like, because I had him captain, so I was watching him like in. I mean, I know we're talking about classic a bit here in Supercoach, but I had him captain, and I was watching him, and I wasn't too impressed with it. But obviously, it's a moving role that I think is going to be better for their team moving forward. But if he if he can get forward status in the future, and he's say a 90 guy, like that's valuable.
Oh yeah.
So I understand, like I guess people when they draft players, they always want these 110s, 120 guys.
Yeah.
But if Sheasel was a 90 forward, if that's where he projects to, that's like will be like a Toby Red. That's really handy.
Yeah.
Like
you got to think about
moving forward.
You got to think about this in relative to the position. So for this year, it sucks, given that he's a defender.
Yeah.
Is he defender only?
I think so.
Yeah, so he's probably going to be defender mid, and that's not what you want, really. And it's going to suck for this year. But in forwards, when you compare what he can do as a forward mid type thing, so yeah, again, that 90 average, he's a top 1 or 2. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, it doesn't matter. It's kind of irrelevant. He's going to be a number 1 or 2 defender this year. And going forward, if he does get forward status, he's going to be 1 or 2 forward. He's going to score lower, but when you compare it to the rest of the competition, the rest of the teams in your league, like it's perfectly fine. So
exactly,
I think it's just it's wherever he plays, he's going to be near the top of that position, I think. So maybe just not as if he's mid only. That's probably the only one thing you don't.
I agree. I'm still hot on him as a long term prospect.
Yeah. Definitely. Craig Frederick, is it time to send Alex Witherden back to the wire? I'm assuming he got dropped again on the weekend. And if that's the case...
I think he might have played.
I did watch the game.
73.
Okay, he was
That's
there.
all right.
He was fine. Yeah, I didn't notice him though, to be honest. So maybe that 20 disposals, 4 marks, 3 tackles coming off halfback flank.
I don't know. Probably not to the wire. Like depending on your like, he's got potential. I don't know if I'll be dropping him just yet.
Nah, he's scoring well enough to be kept. It's just that with those midfielders, there's so many that score pretty well back there as well. So yeah, not just yet because it depends what's on your waiver wise. But yeah, if you can get a defender that's going to average more than 70, but yeah. At Liam, AFLW Fantasy wants to know, where do you think Sam Durham can get for a season-long average? He's got pretty high hopes here, 95, 100. I personally think he'd be lucky. If he's lucky and everything goes his way, he could average 80 this year. What do you think?
I agree. He's going out with like 72 at the moment. I think he can push that to 80. They've got Merritt, they've got Parrish, they've got these top guys.
They got Setterfield still to come back in, as well.
I just don't think can be a 90. 80's pretty serviceable. With the inside time.
Do you think Setterfield comes back into the team straight away, or do you think he has a run in the twos for a bit?
Well, probably.
They're going well enough without him.
Probably two. Like they made Hobbs sub on the weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe they will. Caldwell. So. Yeah, maybe twos. It feels like they've sort of got that midfield mix a bit. They've sort of figured it out.
Either way, I just don't see Durham shifting in what his role is. You know, that kind of truly inside, contested, get the handball out type thing. I just don't see an avenue to more scoring for him. That's all. At Lil Drip wants to know, are Short and Oliver back to being viable options? 100%, I think, especially in the Supercoach formats. They had huge scores.
Options today, I think.
Yeah. So, Supercoach, 100%. In fantasy, yes. Like Oliver, maybe not as much in fantasy. Like he's doing the Supercoach work, but I don't think he's just going to get like the bulk touches. Like I just don't think Melbourne are getting.
They've changed their game style.
They're a lot slower, and that sort of stuff.
And you see Petrarca's just a bit lower. All their output, but I think they're still back to viable options. Like they're still primos and they're still going to score.
Short, definitely, because I just think there's no one else back there to do anything. And like I think his issues have just been fitness in the past, like injuries and stuff like that. So I think he's going to be fine. And Matt W wants to know, do you think Melbourne and Brisbane have their next ruckman after Gorney and McInerney on their list? For the Melbourne side of things, I think they are eyeing off, because I don't think they really have. I don't think they have another ruck listed on their list, like fantasy ruckman anyway. I think they've got the dude from Brisbane that they picked up as break glass in case of emergency. What was his name? Cannot remember his name. But I'll look at the State League numbers here. But yeah, so they've got Kalani White as a father-son. So that's Jeff White's son.
Oh, wicked.
So I think he's going to be, I don't know that because Cade McDonald I asked him this exact same question in the preseason, who he thought the next ruck for Melbourne's going to be. So they got Kalani White. For the Lions, I think they've got one clear standout ruckman in the twos playing at the moment, and I'll just give you his name in a second. Oh, they got Darcy Ford, obviously. But Henry Smith and Carlin Lane are two that they've got rucking in the twos as well. So it's probably going to be between one of those two, but Henry Smith's averaging 90 at the VFL level at the moment from 5 games this year. So he might be someone that they could use at some stage. Darcy Fort was only drafted a few years ago, but I think he's a mature age. Like he's a bit older as well. So I think Brisbane might go with one of those guys or they hit the draft. And I think Melbourne are eyeing off that Kalani White to be their long-term prospect. But again, like he's only getting drafted this year, I think. So
be a few years off.
And Gawn is 33?
Yeah.
Yeah, so need to do something quick.
They could always trade for players.
That's the other thing. Being a Melbourne club, it's so easy to pick up like stopgaps. For them.
And there's so many other there's rucks. Yeah, you can find rucks.
I'm trying to work out the Melbourne. Tom Fullerton was the Brisbane guy that they got down. That was just annoying me. But anyway. Next one is Jez wants to know thoughts on Hawthorn young guys going forward. Day, McDonald, McKenzie, Ward. Day I'm fine with. He's clearly on a bit of a restriction, plus coming back from a long layoff. Well, last week there was a restriction on minutes because I think he only had 60% time on ground. And then this week I think he scored... Where is he? Scored real shit. He actually had the time on ground up this week, but I just think he's lacking fitness.
Yeah.
Just from being out.
He's a gun. You can't
No.
He's proven that he's he's a star. So he's
McDonald
just coming back.
McDonald, I'm more than happy with, given that he puts up good scores playing pretty much predominantly as a forward. Like, he's fine. He's like Toby Green kind of mould. You know what I mean? Like, he'll be fine. Mackenzie's done enough things to, like, he's played midfield roles, he played wing roles and stuff like that, but he's shown me enough in terms of just, those glimpses of, like, hope there that he could be good. Ward's the one that worries me the most. But I think
I'm worried about Ward as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to be resigned to being a wingman. I think they've got the midfield future set up, plus they'll probably add to it again in the offseason through the draft. And then I reckon Ward probably sits on the outside for the time being, which stunts his development.
On the weekend, because he's been out on the side, he played half forward.
He did, yeah.
So maybe they're trying something there with Ward because, he sort of hasn't quite hit that wing.
That might be something to look at. I really thought he was going to
go inside.
Yeah, that might be something to look at for potential forward status. But I do remember him starting on the wing a bit as well. So I think it was a bit of a split.
Yeah, a bit of a split.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I came on here and I took him pick 60 in a startup this year. And yeah, I just thought he was going to go inside and had the junior stuff. But yeah, less on it, but hopefully he can turn it around.
And the last one is Ninja Lou Reef wants to know, does Charlie Lazaro, does he get another chance this season and get back into North's best 22? I think it's a chance again. Like, North will try so many different things this season. So I'd be very shocked if Lazaro doesn't play another game this season. It's more like whether he can capitalise on it type thing. And I think he just like there's every chance that, like, we saw like Tom Powell just get thrown forward for a game so Will Phillips and Simpkin can have a go.
Yeah.
And then Phillips gets turfed this week, Simpkin goes in. Like, there's every chance he has a game here and there where he is given like 60% CBAs type thing to see what he can do. But, like, it's just not something I don't think you can rely on. They're just going to try so many different things this season, and he's still always going to be behind LDU and Wardlaw as well. I like calling him Warlord. That's a funner name. But
I think LDU should be a buy low for. Yeah, I think people should start.
He's playing sore, isn't he?
Yeah, and I know this is off the topic a little bit, but he in our keeper league he got traded today.
Oh, really?
Because I know is just frustrated with him.
Fed up with him.
And and there's talk about him moving to another club. Yeah. So he could be a good buy. If someone's frustrated, you could try and buy him low. Yeah. But he's playing a bit sore, so...
Yeah, I like that. I like that as a buy low candidate for sure. Anyways, let's wrap it up there. That's pretty much just over 60 minutes there, so well done. We got there in the end. Any gigs coming up? Anything you want to plug? Any new music? Or?
Just at the Ramsgate next couple months on a Friday, so that's, come down. And I'm going to start hitting the studio now and recording. Winter's actually really good because it's sort of... gigs die down. Yeah, gigs die down a bit, which is great to actually record and make some new music. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, definitely. And then subscribe to your Spotify page.
Yes.
Can you subscribe to people on Spotify?
You can follow.
That's one. Follow you on Spotify.
And if you add to playlist, all of that stuff helps. So.
Oh, sick. Yeah, definitely do that. And then if any new music drops as well for people out there in the coming months.
Yeah, it'll pop up on the release radar.
Sweet. Perfect. All right. Well, get around our stuff at Keeper League Pod. Way less creative than Geordie, but Keeper League Pod.
Great. I'm liking your TikToks.
On TikTok, on Instagram. Same thing goes on Instagram, but give us a follow somewhere. Putting all the episodes up on YouTube if you want to watch them in full as well. There, I think we had 100 people watch it last week. It's not too bad for something that had 5 views the week before, so it's growing a little bit.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so get on there. And all the other social media pages we're there. Sign up as a member if you want to support the podcast, and that pretty much wraps it up. We'll talk to you next week. See you later.
later.
Boom.